Okay, so we are back with the first video we're going to be doing on taking the DTMX to the next level. Believe it or not, there's not all that much time until this guy has to be out on the track again, and we still have to get it taken care of and refreshed a bit after that endurance race in Biltwell. So what that is, we're going to change the oil on it. Really dusty out there in the Mojave, so we're for sure going to check on the air filter. The next thing I want to do too before that race, which we should be able to do, I want to put some better plastics on it than what it currently has. These are functional, but they're certainly not the best looking. Luckily, I was racing this in vintage MX at one point before it got all beat up and put on the back burner and give it a chance to race again in the Biltwell. So I have some old Preston Penny plastics. The rear fender, we'll see if we can salvage this, but it's pretty thrashed. I'll probably have to hack it off at this point because I was getting some tire rubbing issues here anyway. Front fender though, it's in fine shape. It'll work better than the chopped one on there. And we'll put on some old oval plates I had. This one's kind of melty, but you know, it'll work. And I've got the matching one that's in better shape for the other side. So that should be what will for sure get done before the next race in 2 weeks. Now, oil changes are one of the simplest and most effective ways of keeping your machine up and running. Essential if you're going to be doing racing. On these old two-strokes, there's not even an oil filter. We just take the drain plug off and we drain the old oil out. One thing to note is there is a flat crush washer. Sometimes it'll get stuck to the case there. You want to make sure it isn't. And this one is. But you just take that out, let it drain all the way, put it back in, put your fresh stuff in there. Let's take a look at how bad the race is. Okay, so you'll notice the color of it. It's still pretty golden brown, see-through. No metal shavings, which is a good sign. The flow of oil has slowed to a pretty slow drip there, which means we're ready to put our drain plug back in. One thing I like to do is get a little rag and clean off the surface where the crush washer is going to be mating against. That way you don't have any dirt in there that scuffs it up and creates the potential for an oil leak. I do the same thing. I clean off the drain plug with a rag. We have our brand new crush washer as we just got out of the drawer. And I like to finger tighten it back in. One thing to note about doing drain plugs, they do not need to be incredibly torqued on there. You risk stripping out the threads in the bottom of your case if you do that. So generally you just want to be snug. You don't want it to be so loose that it falls out, but you know, snug enough that you know it won't back out. There you go. Oil is emptied and now it is ready to be refilled with fresh stuff. Right, now we're ready to measure out our oil. The DTMX engine calls for 650 cc's of oil. One thing I always recommend everyone to have in their garage, regardless of if you have a two-stroke or not, these guys here, the ratio right. Essential tool. It's got markings for cc's right here. Goes up to 500, so we're gonna measure out 500 and then 150 more. I always suggest using a real motorcycle oil, like Honda, Pro Honda, conventional. If you're using a motorcycle and you're using a car oil, motorcycles use a wet clutch system. Some of the synthetic car oils can be too slippery and actually make your clutch not work so well. So when in doubt, consult your manual, but I've used this Pro Honda Yamalube. As long as it is a motorcycle oil that is rated for motorcycle wet clutch systems, should be good for you. Next, we're gonna check our air filter. All we gotta do is take out all these Phillips head screws here, and that'll reveal the filter and cage. We've popped all the screws out, so now it's time to take a look. Okay. So I cleaned this filter before even doing some racing. It actually does not look super dirty, but you can see there's some dirt and what is that, grass caked in there. So it was a good idea for us to clean this. I do recommend gloving up if you're going to be doing some work on these air filters. That filter oil is stupid sticky, and it's more annoying more than anything. So we're going to go ahead and pop this filter off the cage. Just like that. And now we're on to the next step. I'm going to be cleaning this the way that my dad taught me how to do it. Fair warning, do it at your own risk. We are going to be using gasoline as a solvent. So this stuff is not good for your skin and it's not good to breathe in. So if you're going to do this, be very careful. It's flammable. I'm not responsible if you get hurt doing it this way. But all you need is some old gasoline. This is stuff that we pull out of project bikes. Who knows how old it is, so it goes into a trash gas container for uses like this. I will also show you another way you can use this trash gas to clean another part of your bike. But pop the filter in a doggy dish or other receptacle, and we're just going to put a little bit of gas in there, and it's going to dilute that oil that's all over the filter, and it's going to help clean out the dirt with it. So you don't need a ton here, just enough that you can kind of sponge up into the filter. Sorry, the lighting's not great here. That's better. And you're basically gonna pick up fuel with it and then kind of wring it out. And you'll see all the dust making it real oily, or not oily, but really dirty and kind of gross. That blue color is the old filter oil. I use Bel-Ray filter oil. It's got that blue color added to it. But basically you're gonna do this, and you're gonna keep bringing it out until your filter takes on an even, clean color. So even after just that, you can see there's not as much dirt and debris stuck in that filter. Now the problem is, because this is a solvent and it breaks down the oil, you're gonna have to wait for this to dry out before you add the new filter oil to it. So in the meantime, we can go on to cleaning another part of the bike that uses gasoline as a solvent. Here we are, back at the bike, and as you may have guessed, we're gonna be cleaning our chain. Now, this method only really applies to non-O-ring chains, as the gasoline can kind of eat away at those O-ring seals. But if you got a standard old school chain, this will work for you. So in order to get this thing off, you're gonna need to search for the link that looks a little different, and that's this one here. That's your master link. All you need is a pair of pliers to get that off. Be careful, these little spring clips like to fly everywhere. And sometimes it's actually easier to move that link over to the sprocket I'm just gonna see if I can get it off where it stands. Yep, there we go. It's going. There we go. Slides right off. Then there's gonna be a plate. And then there's the master link. And if your bike is in neutral, you should be able to just move your chain off of your sprocket. Pull it on out. Again, we have our gasoline slurry. And we're just gonna plop all our parts in there. And because it's a pretty good solvent, it's gonna get all the old chain lube, sand, and dirt off our chain. I like to use a screwdriver to stir this around and really get it going. Now we just kind of stir it around to agitate it. Do it for a few minutes. Eventually you'll get most of the dust and old chain lube off. And then you can put it back on and put some fresh lube on here. So I've been stirring it up around there for a few minutes now, and it's gotten a pretty gross looking in there, but at least the chain is getting clean. So find a rag to plop it down onto and get it dried off. And similarly to the air filter, since that gasoline is a solvent, you're gonna wanna let it dry out before you apply some new lube to it. Roll around your front chain in there. Through our chain tensioner. Get our chain guide. Kind of lay it on the chain ring. Can't leave it away. There we go. There's one side. There we go. And we're through. Plate on. This clip for your master link. It does matter which direction it goes. So you're gonna wanna pay attention to the rotation of the chain and the wheel. So we can see it's going to be going counterclockwise. We're going counterclockwise, we'll keep the closed side going counterclockwise. Sometimes different pairs of pliers work better. I was able to do it with a standard pair, but yeah, that's good to go. All right, we are back from cleaning our chain, checking on our filter, and it is fairly dry, so I think we are ready to apply some filter oil. I prefer to use this Bel-Ray foam filter oil. It's super thick, it's super sticky, it's kind of messy to work with, but it is a necessary part of keeping your machine maintained. And this doesn't just go for these internal filters too. Sometimes you'll see people running these uni-style pod filters, and these also need oiled. You'd be surprised at the amount of bikes you'll see running these and they are dry. And if they are dry, that sticky oil isn't helping to protect dust from passing through. So something to keep in mind, if you're running these dry, you still gotta oil them. You're gonna wanna apply it until it's evenly coated, but you don't want so much in there that it's like sopping through. So what you'll do is you'll apply it and you'll wring it out. Apply it and wring it out, and soon you'll get a even coating. I'll show you what I mean here. We'll kind of work it between our hands here. And you'll see, oh, some of it's got that blue color to it, but it's not very even. And the goal is to keep adding it until it is. And you'll even sometimes add so much you'll start wringing out excess filter oil. There's too much in there. And I highly recommend getting some nitrile gloves for your garage to do this. It makes it a lot less messy. But as you can see, we're actually starting to squeeze a little oil out at this point from some parts that are saturated. And I did not let this dry out quite
enough, I don't think, because some of this oil is coming out very thin. It's mixing with that gasoline that's still in the filter, but this will still work. Oop. Little mishap there. There we go. Now it's starting to get that consistency kind of it being saturated and ready to install. So take a look at it. It's all a fairly even color. There's no very bright spots. You can tell that oil is pretty much everywhere on the filter. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll put the cage back in and we'll head back to the bike. One thing to notice, now that I'm looking at it, this filter is starting to break down a little bit. Here on the corner, you see some chunks missing. Filters are a wear part. You can clean them for a while, but eventually they will break down from age. Yamaha still makes these new, which is pretty sweet. I might have to order one of those. But something to keep in mind, especially on these older machines, check the air filters because some of them are probably going to need replaced. Now it is as simple as going in reverse. You'll notice there's actually a little lithium grease ring around there. That's just to help seal the filter against the housing a little better. It's something I like to do, but it's certainly not necessary. If you are going to do this, make sure to use white lithium grease. That tends to be fairly friendly with most materials. Some other greases are not. I've had decent luck with that. So it just pops back in. We put the filter housing back on, screw it back on, and it's good to go. All right, now that we got all the mechanical important things done, we can start working on some of the cosmetic stuff. We'll start by replacing that front fender. Real simple, 4 bolts on the bottom, take it out, 4 bolts back in with the new fender. All right, and there's the new old fender. Doesn't match in color, but I still think it is a substantial improvement. My Biltwell setup number plates, these old KTM ones, they're just held on with zip ties. The oval plates are also just held on with zip ties, so we'll cut those, switch them out, and we'll see the change. So I have just finished installing the oval plates, the old school ones. I think they look a lot better than the old KTM ones. And now we got to figure out what's going to happen with the rear fender there. So this old rear fender is pretty messed up. That crack goes all the way down to the base of the fender. I am just going to install it temporarily. I think it's just going to self-clearance, and if it breaks, it breaks. I'm planning on maybe some different bodywork for this bike anyway, so it's no big deal if this ends up not lasting too long. That is the end of part 1, guys. That's just getting the bike back into working order. Starting the next video, we'll be doing some mods. I've already got one planned, so stay tuned and we'll check it out. Thanks for watching.